You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there for tuning in and subscribing to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Jay is traveling for work this week, so you're going to get a lot of John flying solo on the show this week. But thanks again for tuning in and making us your first listen every single day. Depth chart projection from George Soya over at Sooner Scoop does great work covering the Oklahoma Sooners. Let's just go through some of this on the offensive side of the ball. He does a little too deep. John Mateer at quarterback, Michael Hawkins, the backup. No real surprise there. I think everybody's expecting this to be John Mateer's job because, hey, you're not going to give the dude a big NIL deal, bring him in from Washington State with his offensive coordinator and not have him be the starter. So it just makes sense. Michael Hawkins going to get some significant run. Hopefully the Oklahoma Sooners offense is good enough that Hawkins gets quite a few snaps in the offense for the Oklahoma Sooners that, hey, we're up big in games and we can get him some more experience. At running back, I find this to be interesting. Javonte Barnes, Xavier Robinson. Listen, the Oklahoma Sooners are bringing back everybody at running back. So it's not surprising that the two best guys from the 2024 season are leading the way on the running back depth chart. Javonte Barnes got banged up towards the end of the year. Would have loved to have him for Alabama and LSU. I think he makes a difference in those games. But Xavier Robinson ran well. When you gave him the rock in a heavy workload against Alabama, he did a great job. Now, the Oklahoma Sooners run game couldn't get anything going against LSU, but I think that was just a really good game plan by the Tigers to minimize and limit what Oklahoma was trying to do offensively. So not surprising to see those two at the top of the depth chart, but don't sleep on Gavin Sawchuk. Don't sleep on Taylor Tatum. Don't sleep on Torrey Blaylock. I think each of those guys could make an impact for the Sooners. Tight end. This is going to be a fascinating one because Oklahoma brought in 3 guys through the transfer portal as veteran options, but George is projecting Devon Mitchell and Cade McIntyre. I love this, man. I love the idea of seeing your 2 young guys leading the way at the position. It's time. Like Devon Mitchell, I know this will be kind of your first swim through college football. You've not played college football before. I would love to see him emerge and become the dude that everybody thinks he can be. So much of it seems to have been just getting used to life at the collegiate level, which is a difficult transition. And when you were supposed to be a high school senior and you're making that transition to the college football level, you've got a lot to learn, not just the X's and O's, but just learning life. And so I'm intrigued to see where Devon Mitchell ends up after spring ball, after fall camp. Cade McIntyre, the dude is an uber athlete. He's a really good athlete. His issue has just been size and figuring it out in the run game. But I think if those are your 2 tight ends, I think you have a much more dynamic position than what you've had each of the last 2 years. So excited for that potential. Wide receiver, he's starting Deion Burks, Jaden Gibson, and Giovanni Gibson. Love the trio there. If Jaden Gibson is healthy, I expect him to be one of your starters. The biggest question is going to be, what's his timetable look like? Is he going to be full go for fall camp? Because if he's not full go for fall camp, I would be shocked to see him start the season as a starter. If he's limited, if he's, not fully up to speed by the time the season starts, then you're probably going to see a Keontez Lewis out there on the outside. You might see an Ivan Carrion, somebody like that. You could see a Josiah Martin. Sorry, I was about to say Josiah Wagner, but it's Josiah Martin out there on the outside. It's going to be fascinating to see what his timetable, because we've seen these ACLs, these knee injuries, take a little bit longer than a year for some of these guys in recent years. Jaden Gibson, a lot of his game is predicated on his explosiveness, the ability to get up above the rim, make plays above the defender. And if he's not able to do that, that could really hamper his game, but really hoping for a swift recovery. In the 2 deep at wide receiver, Isaiah Satania behind Deion Burks in the slot, Ivan Carrion, Zion Kearney on the outside. Again, I think this is best case scenario, right? You want to see your young guys emerge and become part of your 2 deep. you're still battling for spots on the 2 deep, then okay, you've still got a lot of work to do. That doesn't mean we're writing you off at all. It just means that you're not quite where you need to be just yet. But Ivan Carrion showed some things in the game against Navy. He was really good, 7 catches, 70 plus yards. And Zion Kearney showed some things as well. Had the big drop, unfortunately, but I think he's got the ability to be a big playmaker. Let's not forget that back in Jaden Gibson's true freshman season, he struggled bad with drops. Even going to the spring game, struggled with some drops, but emerged in 2023 as a big-time threat for the Sooners offense. Let's look at the offensive line real quick. Starting, according to George, Logan Howland, Jacob Sexton, Troy Everett, Eddy Pierre-Louis, and Derek Simmons. In the 2 deep, Michael Fasusi at left tackle, Heath Ozida at left guard, Josh Isosa at center, Fabechi Wewu at right guard, and Luke Baklenko at right tackle, backing up Derek Simmons. So interesting here because, man, I think if Eddy Pierre-Louis is able to emerge and become a starter, that really improves your offensive line from a physicality standpoint. It'll be fascinating to see if that's where Bill Bedenbaugh goes, or if he decides to ride the experience of a guy like Fabechi Wewu. Jacob Sexton, the only issue with Jacob Sexton is just health. If my guy can stay healthy, then he's going to have a chance to be a starter for this team. But let's not sleep on Heath Ozida, because Heath Ozida played well as he grew into the position at left guard. So I'm not going to sit here and say that Jacob Sexton's got this 100% on lockdown. I think there's potential that Heath Ozida could earn that role. And then, the Logan Howland, Michael Fasusi spot at left tackle. Logan Howland, he's going to have to prove that he can hold on to the position. And then, but I also think that a Luke Baklenko could end up starting at one of the tackle spots, or Derek Simmons. But I think if your right tackle spot is Derek Simmons, Luke Baklenko, I like what you got there on that right tackle position. I don't disagree a whole lot with much of this. I think you could see some of the young guys emerge and begin to take roles. You could see an Eddy Pierre-Louis be a starter for the Sooners this year. But at the same time, I think they're going to probably try to lean heavily on some of the veterans and hope that they can develop and be better than what OU had last year. George does say here, the only thing I feel confident in saying is that Deion Burks and Troy Everett will start for OU. Everywhere else, his guess is as good as ours. So, I mean, listen, I think John Mateer is going to start. That is not a question to me. And I do think that, Javonte Gibson is probably going to be one of your starters at wide receiver. And then they really like what they got out of Logan Howland. Now, will he start? We'll see. There's a long time between now and September. I want to go into the defensive side of the ball here in the next segment, as well as talk about where Oklahoma lands in some of these SEC power rankings. But we'll do that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Well, that's happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon today.